guys, Haley and Rebecca here.
Hi.
So today we're going to talk about meat pens. Although some of you might not be interested in doing them or showing them, it's always a good thing to learn about, considering usually they ask a lot of questions in showmanship regarding meat pens. So it's always a nice thing to know. So I have a presentation from a friend that she gave at one of the bigger rabbit shows a couple years back, and this is kind of what I'm going to go off of, and if anyone wants us to email it, we can try and scan it and email it to you. So our rabbit group is going to be participating in meat pens, and obviously you can tell us if you don't want to or you want to. And we're basically going to be getting meat pens from a breeder who bred for fairs that got canceled. So we're going to be helping her out by buying some meat pens from her, and then we're going to learn about everything that we need to know. And do you want to explain a little bit more?
It'll kind of help both of us out. So she had 3 fairs that she was breeding for. They've all been canceled. But this is a person that Haley's gotten Californians from before. Which is a meat rabbit, and she's very hard to get rabbits from. So she breeds just for fairs a few times a year, and usually has a mile-long list of 4-H and FFA kids that will buy pens from her. So she already had all of her pens pretty much pre-sold and then some before fairs were canceled. So she had bred 18 does, all 18 does kitted, so so they all had babies. And she has a ton of rabbits, which is really rare for her. So she sells a pen of 3, or a meat pen, for $75, which is a great deal. That's $25 a rabbit. And we have the ability right now to, after the rabbits are processed, to sell those rabbits off for meat. So it's kind of a win-win. You'll probably get about what you spend back. Not a huge profit at that point, but a great lesson learned. And we probably won't have this opportunity again. So,
Haley's taking it.
Yeah, we're taking this and running with it. Haley's going to tell you a little bit more about meat pens. Right now, I think we have 2 or 3 kids that are going to do it. I'm hoping more of you will take the opportunity to do it. It's really a great experience. And if you don't want to participate in harvesting the rabbits at the end, that's totally fine. We can do that for you.
Or you don't want to keep them at all, we can help you find buyers.
Yeah, we can find buyers for them if you don't want to process them. But just the learning how to raise a meat pen is a pretty fun thing to do, and it'll teach you a ton about just raising rabbits in general.
And for the kids who can't have livestock, this is a great way to learn about the livestock part of everything that you can't necessarily partake in again. So what is a meat pen for those of you who don't know? I have a couple cards. It's 3 rabbits of the same age, breed, type, and variety.
Get it a little closer. There you go.
And they should usually weigh 3.5 to 5.5 pounds. And they're called fryers as well as the individual rabbit. And they gain about half a pound a week, as that said. And then these are, so obviously we're going to get, I think Californians.
Possibly some New Zealand's, but mostly Californians.
But so some of the other commercial breeds.
Is it going to come over the right way or backwards?
Backwards.
Will it?
It'll be fine.
So just read backwards.
I'll read it to you guys. Californians, New Zealand's, Satins, Champagne and Cream d'Argents, American Chintz, and Silver Martins. And any rabbit can be considered a meat rabbit, a meat pen rabbit, as long as they're the 3.5 to 5.5 pounds at the correct age. Those are just going to be your most competitive usually, and your 2 top competitive breeds are going to be Californians and New Zealand's.
Most of the time, that is what you'll see. Very rarely do you see anything else.
Yeah.
Taylor Allen from San Benito County has been doing sables the last couple years, and I believe that Jordan Randolph, when she used to be in rabbits, did American chins. But for the majority of the time, cows and New Zealand's are going to be what you see.
Yeah. That is going to be your most competitive, and that's what we usually see at Salinas Valley Fair, Monterey, Santa Cruz, San Benito. Those are going to be your most competitive. So for meat pens, you want to weigh and record them. I would say if you can weigh every day, or at least once a week is really good. If you get lost and forget to weigh a couple times, it's totally fine. Just make sure that right before, obviously if you're gonna show, we won't be able to with these guys, but if you're going to, you would want to weigh as soon as it's really close to fair, you want to weigh every day, because you don't want to be under and you don't want to go over, and you want to be able to track that. So track your weights and adjust feed. If your rabbit isn't gaining, you can add supplements, and then always check your food and water, make sure that they're eating it properly and everything. And I would recommend separating the 3 rabbits, or you can leave them together, whatever, but separating usually, and weighing out their feed, or feeding each rabbit a cup a day would be the best.
If you have a mom that has a litter and you're doing your own pens, usually as you get a little closer, if you pull 3 or even 4, like if you have a pen and a spare, and you pull those out and separate them out, you have a better chance of kind of really watching their weights and them growing out a little better. Different supplements you can add. Oats, that's an easy one. You can also add any kind of hay, grain, barley. There's several different grains that you could do, and you can experiment with it.
Yeah.
See what you like, what works for you.
Okay, so if your rabbits are getting a little bit too heavy, you're weighing and you're just noticing that this one or maybe all 3 are just getting a little bit too heavy, a little bit too fast, you can mix 50-50 pellets and whole oats and feed 1/4 a cup per day with plenty of grass hay. That way it'll slow down, and it'll get rid of some of their weight while keeping them still filled. So then you don't have skinny rabbits at that point. So do you want me to talk about breeding?
Yeah.
We won't be breeding, but if you were to decide that you wanted to do this at a fair, you would have to breed your own rabbit for any fair except for San Benito, right?
King City, Monterey, and Santa Cruz, you have to be the breeder. So
Yeah.
you have to have the doe when she has the kits.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to
Start
go out
raising
and start
Californians.
raising Californians. You can get one doe, and you can find someone who has a buck and have them breed her for you. You
can
could get a
lease.
couple does and a buck. You could lease a rabbit from somebody that does meat pens. You could say, hey, I want to try out raising meat pens. Can I lease a doe from you, and you breed her, and I'll pay you a certain amount of money to lease her for a couple months, and then either purchase her or give her back when it's over with. That's perfectly fine as long as you're the owner of her when she delivers, and then up until the fair.
Yeah.
You want to be the owner of those babies and the mom.
So for the breeding, if anyone wants to go along with that, you would have to find out the date of the show, and a calendar would be the easiest to help you with this, and you want to go back 100 days, and that's when you breed. And you have to check and see rules and age of your fryer or meat pen, and some fairs don't follow ARBA rules, but all of our fairs do, so the 100 days would be your best guess.
You need the rabbits to be 70 days or younger, and the closer you can get to 70 days, the better your chances are, because again, that ratio is 3.5 to 5.5 pounds for a meat pen. If they're under 3.5, they're disqualified. If they're over 5.5, they're disqualified. But the majority of the time, not always, the majority of the time, the winning meat pen is going to be 4.5 to 5.5 pounds. It's the rabbits on the larger size that usually tend to win. That said, sometimes you'll see every once in a while a smaller pen win if all of the bigger pens are just really not good quality, not good type, don't match up together. And Haley will tell you more about matching a pen, but if all of the ones above you, just in weight, don't meet that criteria, then there's a chance the smaller pen could win. But 99% of the time, it's the larger pen because they're looking for the meat quality in the rabbits, so they want to see that size.
So I know we kind of already talked about feeding, but I want to go back to that because feeding is really important for them to grow properly. We usually feed our Californians a cup each. So if they're in a pen together, you do 3 cups or full feeder, and then they'll just eat it. Or if they're individual, you want to do a cup or 2 cups. 1 cup to 2 cups is the best for them, and then you want to make sure that you're using supplements, so barley, oats, you can look up a bunch of other stuff. Sunflower seeds is really good for their coat and it'll help them gain a little bit of weight. We do muscle builders. We do calf manna usually, which is really great. You just want to make sure that you're not giving too much of that. And then there's, I don't remember, do you remember what that one was called that we got at convention? It was a muscle builder.
I think it was I think it's made by the same company that makes oxygen.
Yeah.
And I think it is just a muscle builder for meat pens.
You can usually find those online, like KW usually carries them, or Bass or something, some type of a feed that builds muscle is what you're looking for. You definitely don't need it.
You could just do a good pellet and throw some oats and barley in there and some sunflower seeds. That'll help with weight. That'll help with filling them out correctly in the right spots, help with the coat. And then if you're having weight issues, a little calf manna. And like Haley said, not too much because it'll contradict what you want to do. If you give them too much calf manna, they'll go off feed sometimes and then they'll start losing weight. So you want to make sure you follow the directions.
And that's why you always want to keep an eye on their weight too, just to make sure that you can always fluctuate things around. And obviously don't wait to weigh until a week before the fair to find out that, oh no, they're not even close to 3.5 or they're way over 5.5. Like, make sure that you're weighing accordingly.
Or they're all a pound apart.
Yeah.
That happens.
Another thing too is exercise, because you do want them to be muscular. You don't want overly muscular, but you do want them to have a good loin, a good muscular loin. I'll show you guys that in a little bit on a rabbit, what I'm talking about when I say loin. Same with the hindquarters. You want a nice full hindquarter. You don't want it to be catchy in the hip or anything. And you just want, for small rabbits, you want them to be big and muscular. So exercise is really important too. So usually we put out a playpen and we just let them run, and then they'll wear themselves out basically and exercise themselves.
It's a good, one of the best tips that I think we've ever gotten was exercise. Yeah. Because not everybody does that. And that was one of the things Katie told Haley with the first litter is, it sounds funny, but her pens that have done better have been the ones that are exercised pretty regularly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so weigh-in day, if you want to be competitive, again, with what we're doing this time, we aren't necessarily going to be going to a show with these rabbits. So it doesn't matter, but it does, because this is a learning experience and you want to be able to go through with what you would be doing at the fair or at a show, because you can show them at a show. You just enter it as a neat pen. But to be competitive, you should have no more than 1 ounce spread between your rabbits. So for example, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.7. That would be your ideal, but a perfect pen, they would all be the same exact weight. But that's hard, so the closest you can get them is always the best, which is why usually we try and buy 2 pens. Like if we're buying from someone, we'll buy 2 pens, and then choose a week before.
The three
or something.
best.
Yeah, or the ones that are closest.
And you
in
can
weight
even
everything.
choose, if we were going to the fair, you can choose the night before. We've done that. You take
And
all the
then you
rabbits,
tattoo.
the night before you figure out which 3 are going and you tattoo. Generally, you cannot tattoo at a fair usually, so you want to make sure you've tattooed your meat pens the night before. And meat pens usually happen before the show. So the show starts at 9, weigh-ins are at 9, check-ins at 9. Usually 8:30 they're starting weighing in meat pens and getting going. So you want to make sure you're ready first thing that morning.
And then another thing, if they're too light, you can try giving them toast, and they'll hopefully gain some weight with that.
Some wheat toast will usually do it, and if you find that they don't want to eat the wheat toast, sometimes you can soak it in a little bit of milk, pour milk over it. They usually like that too.
Yeah. So to pick a pen, it's 3 rabbits as we said, and their body, their weight, their color should be the same or at least very, very similar. So Californians are easy obviously with their color because it's only a standard color. They don't have any other special colors. They just have their markings. So as long as they are show quality standard Californian, all 3 of them, you're fine. It gets a little bit harder when you get to any other thing that's not a standard color. So say my New Zealand's, I do blue and black, and there's white and red. So, and then broken. So, if I were to do a New Zealand pen, I would have to make sure that all 3 of them were the same color. And you really want, it doesn't matter that much, but you really want the markings to be similar too, because that will, sometimes the marking will kind of show off their body better or worse. And so if they're all the same, it'll make them look more uniform. And so as we said, same weight, same body type. I'll pull out some and show you guys. They're probably not going to be the exact weight of a meat pen, but they might be. But it's mostly about looking at their type. Do you have anything to add?
Nope. Turn your...
Yeah. Okay, so this is Snap, Crackle, and Pop. They were a meat pen. And I just weighed them in there 5.5, 5, and 5. So ideally this would not be a perfect pen now. When they were younger, they were better. But so you want to look at each rabbit individually. So I'll kind of show you what you're looking for. You want to ball them up, and they should kind of look like an even basketball. And so I kind of just pinch right here, not really pinch, I'm just like going like this. Tickling basically, yeah. And that way it balls them up, rounds them up. And so I'll kind of talk about what you're looking at. You're looking at the shoulder, you don't want it to dip. And what I mean when I say that is you don't want like a huge gap, or you want it to be perfect little basketball with no gaps or anything like that. So you kind of want this gradual slope up, and then you can't see her feet right now, but what we call the peak should be right at the front of her foot or toe. So right about here is where the top of her height, her peak should be, and it's
finger.
Oh, it's right here, and it should be here. So, that's not the best angle for her. I promise.
But you can see
better than that.
toes.
But so she peaks a little bit early. He. Yeah, she. She peaks a little bit early, and that's not. You don't want that, but hers isn't so bad that you would probably get like a second place or something for this. And then next you want the hindquarter is this at the back here. It's their butt. And you want their butt to be nice and round. So obviously she's not posed right now, but you want it to be nice and round. You want it to be what we call full to the table, so your hand, when it goes down, is nice and full right there. And you don't want it to kind of go in. Like if she had a body like that, it wouldn't be as nice. And you don't want it to be what we call catchy, so when I'm putting my hand down, I do like a C basically, and I just go down, and when I say catchy in the hip, this is their hips right here. And if my hand's caught on their back leg or their hip, that's what would be catchy. And you can fill out this part right here, right by the loin. You can fill that out by oats, barley,
Shredded wheat.
And then loin is this part right here. This is your most expensive cut on any animal, pretty much. This is where most of your most expensive meat is going to come from, and your most meat. And this, you want a big loin, so hers is kind of small, but not terribly small. And this is your most important thing. You want a big loin. Other than that, you just want to make sure that they have no general disqualifications. So obviously checking them, making sure that all their toenails are the correct color, that they have all their markings, proper eye color, everything. And then usually when I'm picking out my pen, I go through each 3 individually, and kind of just keep in my mind what they have in common and what they don't. And I only had these 3 in this litter, so this had to be a pen, no matter how they looked. Some of you guys might be getting more than 1 pen, which I highly encourage because you can mix rabbits around. So this guy, this is what we call an older body style, where the hip or the shoulder is a more gradual up to the peak. Instead of like this, it's like this. So a little bit longer in the shoulder is what we would say. Both are fine, both can win, both can be competitive, but in a meat pen, you don't want to pair the 2 together. So this guy, he peaks maybe a little bit early again. So this guy, again, loin, pretty much the same as his sisters. He has a good hindquarter and everything. Not so catchy in the hip. She was maybe a little bit more. Personally, I like him better, but I am a lot more of a older body style. I don't like the newer body styles. And it's all about the judge's interpretation of what we call an SOP, the standard of perfection. So this one is kind of old body style too. She is a little bit of a mix of both. So that's usually because one parent was newer, one parent was older body style. And so then they mix together, and it kind of, the babies will come out half and half basically usually. And so again, a little bit longer in the shoulders. You can see how it kind of just goes up gradually instead of how the other one just went like that. And so my favorite in the litter is probably the buck. She has a really nice loin. Like, I think hers is the biggest. And her hindquarter is really filled. She would probably be the second best rabbit. But so I wouldn't use these as a pen because 1, their weights are so different, and 2, their bodies are so different. So ideally you would want to pick 3 rabbits that are exactly the same, like could be triplets. So, yeah.
So usually one of the things that you'll do after Haley was saying, she likes to look at each one individually. If you were picking a pen, so we are in this adventure together. Anybody that wants to do it, it is a huge opportunity, and I really, really can't stress enough how awesome it would be to get as many people to do this as we could. But we are going to go pick up, ultimately, usually if you were going to pick up meat pens from someone, so if you were going to do pens for San Benito, where you can purchase them and raise them for 30 days and then show them and didn't have to be the breeder, you would go to Katie, the person we're getting them from, to her house. She would have maybe 10 or 12 pens set out in coops, holding coops. Wait, I want to see all three together. And you would look at the pens that she's already looked at, and she would tell you, if you like any of these, great, take it. If not, you can mix and match too. And you would do this. You would look at each rabbit individually, and then you would take the three, when they're little, it's totally fine, just to get an idea of where you're at. You would line all three up, and you would try to kind of pose them, and you would try to look at them. And I bet you can look at this and tell which one is the bigger one, but you would kind of look at their rears together and try to get an idea of the loin. So that's this part right here again, right? The loin and the full rump rear area, if they all kind of match. You want them to be as close as you can get them to matching, all three of them.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the most important profile for the judge. When the judge pulls the pen of three out together, he or she is going to line them up and stand back and look at them to get an idea.
And they'll try and pose them as best as they can to see, like, if I put this right here, you guys can kind of see how, if I level this off, can you tell that there's three rabbits? Barely. So they're kind of trying to see how much they're alike. So their peak, where it peaks, how high it is, their butts, everything. You're just trying to see how close they are to each other.
Another thing that I think is kind of important that Haley didn't mention, when you're looking at a Californian or a New Zealand, or pretty much any meat rabbit, even at this age, but also especially as you get into showing them, if you show them as they get older, but even at this age, when you pose them, that height that she was showing you, pose that one. So I'm going to move the camera around so you can see from over here, but okay, there's the height. Do I got it in there? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that height should be the same as this width right there. In your perfect meat rabbit, your width and your height are exactly the same. So if you want to pull out a measuring tape, some judges that, usually the judges that are better at judging meat rabbits will have a measuring tape, and they will actually kind of do this to measure, because if you can get that and that to be the same measurement, then that is a perfect meat rabbit. So just something to think about. And then if you guys decide to do this project, a few things to know. We are going to, as Haley's putting these away, a couple things to note. We are going to go pick them up instead of taking everybody up there, since we are sheltering in place and trying to keep contact to a minimum. We're going to go up this week, towards the end of the week or this coming weekend, and we're going to pick up how many ever pens we need for everybody, and probably a couple extra pens in case anyone changes their mind, or in case we need to mix and match rabbits a little bit, or if something happens to one, we'll have some spares. So we're going to go pick up a bunch of pens, and we'll probably, Haley may do some picking, but we may just let Katie do it so that we're not intermingling too much. But we'll pick them up, we'll bring them home, and then Haley and I are going to go through and we'll number them all. We're not going to match them in pens of 3 for you. So we're going to number them.
But we're going to know, obviously, which ones should be paired together.
So we're going to just number them off, and then we will go through whoever said that they want to do this project. I think we'll start with whoever said they wanted to do it first, and we'll go down the line.
I thought we were doing it by age.
Or we can do it by age, oldest kids to youngest kids, or...
you guys can email her
what you think.
So you can either do it whoever said first, first come first serve basically. We can do it by age, oldest to youngest,
or youngest to oldest,
whatever. Or we can do it by how long you've been in the
rabbit project. That might be a good one too.
Because then obviously kids like me, who this is going to be coming up to my next year, would be able to go first or last, whatever.
So maybe shoot us an email. If you want to do this, let us know which way you think would be fair to pick, and we'll see what you guys think, what the majority of you think, right? And whatever the majority of everyone thinks, we'll go with that. We're going to number them off, and we're going to do some good videos of each
pictures.
rabbit, some good pictures and videos for you of each one with their number by them, and then you can pick. We'll go through, you know, however we're going to pick, and you can say, okay, I want number 2, number 9, and number 12, whatever. And everybody will pick their pens, and then we will deliver them to you. And we're more than happy to loan you a carrying cage for just a little bit. We can just drop them on a doorstep. And if you guys need feed for the duration of the project, totally fine. We have a ton of, literally a ton of Templeton feed usually on hand at any given time. In the barn, we have usually 20 to 40 50-pound bags. So we're happy to drop a 50-pound bag of feed for you for these guys. It's $15, $16. They raised it $1. It's $16. So that includes, it's 12 from them, and then we add $4 a bag to cover the gas going down to Templeton and back hauling the trailer every other month. So we usually do $16 a bag. We're happy to leave a 50-pound bag. That should take you through the duration of this project with no problem. You may even have some left over probably, especially if you're only doing one pen.
Some other things we could do, we could bag Timothy hay for you guys, which I highly recommend feeding. It helps prevent bloat.
Really good idea in young rabbits, and these are going to be young.
Yeah, and then other things I always have oats and barley because of our pig and my horse, and we could do bags of that and bags of sunflower seeds, because you guys are obviously not going to need the whole 50-pound bag at a feed store.
We buy Timothy hay usually by a bale.
Yeah.
And so more than happy to sell you a flake for $5, and we can put it in a grocery bag and drop it with the feed with the rabbits. Usually sunflower seeds, oats we buy 70-pound bags at a time. Sunflower seeds usually a 20-pound bag at a time. So yeah, we can totally throw those in there for you. Couple bucks, whatever, just let us know. And Timothy hay you can also always buy at Tractor Supply, and you should be giving all your rabbits a handful of Timothy hay, a good size handful, once a week to keep from bloating. They really need that fiber for digestion, but these guys especially. So they're going to be 6 weeks old when we go pick them up.
You're pushing so much feed on them, and
they don't have mom anymore.
On the feed,
they've just been weaned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they're getting used to the feed and not having mom with milk anymore.
And Templeton is what they're on right now. So there won't be a change of feed, which is good.
Unless you want to feed another feed. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is feed. So I am a little bit biased. I feed what I feed. You can feed whatever you want. We feed Templeton, as my mom said. I love Templeton. I've been feeding it for like 4 years, I think.
I think so.
Never had any problems. Obviously, rabbits, especially young rabbits, need the Timothy hay or they will bloat. And I've had problems with bloat, but not as much with Timothy. With Templeton and Timothy mixed together. But there are plenty of other rabbit feeds. There's Purina. They have a couple of Purina feeds. They had a huge recall on their feed recently. Tractor Supply usually carries it, but I don't recommend feeding it. I've had problems with mucoid enteritis, which is bloat, from Purina. Usually the show feed.
The higher protein.
Because it doesn't have enough fiber. But if you wanted to feed that, I don't encourage it, but that is up to you.
We had good luck on it at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not a bad feed by any means.
Definitely not.
I think it depends where you get it too. And we love Tractor Supply for many things, but we have found several times that we've gotten feed there that the feed will be a little bit older. It's been sitting for a while.
Has some mildew or something.
We've had
wet
a couple
feed.
of occasions where we've had mildew in the bottom of the feed bag, and so either it's gotten wet or it's been there for too long. So that's something to consider. You might want to. And we've also had a lot of trouble finding feed with Tractor Supply. They run out quite often. They don't stock regularly. at the certain times that we seem to need it for some reason, or someone comes and mass buys it before you do. So we've had issues with that. But we did have good luck with it too. So it's all a personal choice.
Another feed is king feed. I had a huge problem with that, and I'm not going to get into detail with it, but we've had problems with LA Hearn is where we buy king feed, which is out by us in Prunedale. And their normal feed or their clover bud feed is a semi-decent feed. Again, I wouldn't recommend it.
It's a lower protein. It has a lot of fiber. It tends to do well with rabbits that you're not showing. It's not necessarily, and they say that on there too, it's not necessarily their show rabbit feed. It adds a little too much fat to the rabbits for showing purposes.
They have, so they have like 3 or 4 feeds. So their normal feed, their clover bud feed, and then they have, I don't remember.
I think 2 others.
2 others, yeah. They have like a meat one or something that has the higher protein, not enough fiber. Definitely don't recommend that. And then Showtime, Pen Pal, those are pretty good, but they're a little bit harder to find. Templeton obviously is going to be your best bet and your easiest, and that way we don't have to change feeds on them at all. Those are probably the top feeds around here.
I think that Modesto Milling makes a really good feed too. It's an organic feed.
It's expensive.
And it's really expensive. But it is a great quality feed. And I believe you can get it at Country Hill Feeds in Watsonville and Casserly. Plug for Jeanette. Or you can get it at Aptos Feed. They don't usually carry it all the time, but they're happy to order it for you.
But they will order it. Yeah. Actually, Jeanette does carry it.
I think she does carry it.
She does. She also carries Farmers, Farmers is really good feed. But I highly recommend Templeton just because that's what we can get you and that's what they're already on. And changing feed on a rabbit is pretty hard because they are such a small animal and their digestive systems aren't the best. And then obviously you want to make sure that they have water, and I highly encourage supplements.
Water all the time.
Yeah.
Grab a tube of Fast Track real quick to show them what that looks like. If you have rabbits, meat pens or not, if you have rabbits, if you're in this project, if you have any digestive issues, if you see any issues or complications with your rabbits at all, this has been the hugest save that we have found. So, okay, sorry if it's backwards, but this is Fast Track. It is a probiotic for horses, and you can use it in all kinds of livestock. It's mostly marketed for horses, and it was a horse person that told us about it. Thank you, Kirsten. But we've used it on rabbits numerous times, and actually the first time was at the fair. We had a little Hollandlop who had been taken away from mom. I think mom had passed away maybe, and it was young and didn't have mom, but it was on food, so we're doing okay, and started to bloat a little bit and get a little lethargic. And she had some of this at the fair and said, let's try it. So just a little pea size, within a day you could tell a difference in that rabbit. We have had so many rabbits that have come back with this. It's outstanding. So I would keep this on hand. And especially for your meat pen rabbits, if you see them not eating right, if they're just not looking right, just a little pea size of probiotics is fabulous.
And you can always call us too with any problems that you're seeing. You can text, call, email, whatever you need to do to get a hold of us if you have any questions about this. We're here for you through this whole thing. And I've done meat pens plenty of times, so I'm always here to help. This is wormer. We buy Safeguard. It's at Tractor Supply. It's a horse wormer, or we've used it for pigs before too.
Show it again. So with the Safeguard, where am I? There we go. With the Safeguard, we just get the smaller tube, but just so you can see it, and it's usually in the horse or pig area. It's 25 gram paste, 10%, 100 milligrams per gram. That's what this one is. And it's a pea size again also. You should be worming rabbits once every 6 months. Worst case scenario, once a year, but once every 6 months would be best. And it's just a pea size in their mouth. It's very palatable. They don't tend to like this as much as the Fast Track. So if you're doing what we did a couple weekends ago and doing both with your whole barn, do the Fast Track first and then do this, because then they're like, oh, I like this stuff. But if you do this first and then that, you won't get them to eat both. They just, well, you will, but it takes a little work.
Yeah.
So,
and you can either put this directly in their mouth, so this comes off, and you can put this directly in their mouth, or you can be a little risky and put your finger in their mouth, put it on your finger, and then put your finger in the mouth, and hope you don't get bit. Either way works. Just at your own risk.
Biosecurity purposes, if you have rabbits that you're giving Fast Track to or worming because they've lost weight, they're thin, they're just not looking right, of course, always make sure you have maybe some alcohol wipes on hand. Is always a good idea to just, if you're putting it in each mouth, wipe it between rabbits. Just simple common sense biosecurity. And meat pens, you don't necessarily have to worm because they are so young, but it's good to have the wormer on hand just in case they're starting to lose weight and you're worried that there might be some issue.
Okay, so that's mainly it for the whole picking a meat pen, feeding, everything.
I want to talk about the project just a little more.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So we've talked about how we're going to go get them. Mm-hmm. We're going to number them. We're going to video and send pictures. We're going to let you decide in what order we're letting kids pick. You're going to pick your pens. We'll deliver them, drop them off on your doorsteps. And it is 70 days. So they're going to be 30 days. No, they'll be 40 days when you get them. So we have 30 days to go. So it's going to be exactly 4 weeks with them. So not that big of a time commitment. At the end of the 4 weeks, during that 4 weeks, we'll probably do 1 or 2 either videos or Zoom meetings where we can discuss the pens, look at them, talk about questions, problems, feeding, care, whatever you want to talk about.
And I do want to be able to keep track of weights. So if you guys have paper that you can put down, I'll go grab mine in a second. But just something to be able to write down, keep track of each individual rabbit's weight. And then when if we have a Zoom meeting, or I can email you guys or whatever, just to tell me your guys' weights so that I know you're keeping on track and everything, and we know how they're gaining and everything.
Haley usually likes to get a Sharpie and put in their ears, number the rabbits. So 1 through 3 or 1 through 6 if you get 2 pens. And then what she'll do is just make a simple little graph. You can do an Excel spreadsheet or just, write it out on a piece of paper, whatever's easiest for you. Put down the number of the rabbits, and then every time you weigh them, put their weight down. So then you know how each individual rabbit is gaining, and you make sure that they are gaining correctly and make sure that they're all pretty close in weight.
Okay, so sorry guys, this is backwards to you, but this is my meat pen tracking sheet that my mom printed out for me and laminated. And this is my last meat pen that I did that I was weighing and everything. So it has, I think this was my Santa Cruz meat pen. So this is I always put their ear tags or whatever is in their ears so that I know which rabbit is which. I have each individual rabbit and then their weight. And this had that I was weighing at 45 days, 50, 55, 60, 63, 65, 67, 69. And then obviously your 70th day should be your fair or show. But I had changed it to the date that I started weighing them. And then I put down their weights and started tracking just about weekly or daily. Yeah, it was almost daily. And then I put down, we have this part where it says shoulders, loin, hindquarters. I don't really use that, but you can put how good it is or whatever. And then I have comments here. And so I put here that all their teeth were good and their nails were good because I always have to check the disqualifications and everything. And then I put that they were all does here in the comments section, just for my own, whatever. I can't read that. I don't know what that says.
Favorite, I think it says fave.
Oh, but yeah.
So, teeth good, nails good. Haley had said check for disqualification. So we have had times, and we know many other people have too, where you get to a show and there's 18 or 20 meat pens and they're throwing them up on the table, they're weighing them all, and they start to go through before the judges even look at the meat pens. They usually, they weigh them to make sure they're the right weight, and then they make it onto the table. And then they go through all of them and check for DQs. And they get rid of all the DQs. Then they start to judge them. You won't get comments on a meat pen usually if they're DQ'd sometimes, but not always. It depends on how many there are up there. But we have had times where there's a wrong colored toenail, a missing toenail, a Californian that the underneath of the tail didn't have color, something like that, that would have been easy to find ahead of time, but just somehow got overlooked. So we try to be pretty diligent about checking for the DQs, and even at that, we know people that have had a rabbit break a tooth the night before the show at Santa Cruz County Fair, and the rabbit ends up getting disqualified. So you just never know. It's a game, and it's kind of a really fun adventure, and it's just something to try. And I think this is a great opportunity for you guys. Anybody that's debating, if you're like, on a cusp and you're not sure, shoot us an email, text us, ask us questions, because this is a huge opportunity, and this is going to be fun. I think this is something we can do while we're social distancing. We can still get rabbits to you, we can raise rabbits, we can have meetings online, and then when it comes down to after our 30 days is over, what we want to do is have you all take videos and pictures from every angle of all of the rabbits in the pen that you chose, and then weigh them for us. And we're going to compare them all, and maybe even hopefully we're going to see if we can send all of that information to one of the judges and see if they'll compare them for us, maybe.
Less bias.
Yeah, less bias, exactly. And see if we can get an opinion on them. Or if we can't get a judge to do it, we could maybe get some of our rabbit friends to do it that aren't in the group, and not tell them whose rabbits are whose, and just let them go through and pick. And then just for fun, we will award first, second, and third place. And maybe we could do some prizes or some ribbons, something like that.
And then obviously once all this is over, you guys can decide what you want to do with your rabbits. They are yours. You bought them. I will possibly be keeping some, just so that I have some newer, younger does to keep, or even a buck. You guys can keep them, whatever. We are also going to process some of them, meaning we're going to have, if we can have people at our house by then, we will invite some people to our house that want to learn and see this. And if we can't, we will do another video or a Zoom or whatever. And we'll make sure that okay, this is the processing video. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. Because it is a process that can be kind of scary for some people, obviously, or some people that don't eat meat, definitely probably wouldn't want to see this. But we will be doing that for some of them.
We could probably, even if we're still social distancing and we do a video, maybe we'll break it up by parts, and we'll take a card and we'll put on it part 1, and we'll tell you, okay, we're gonna actually dispatch, is what they say when they kill the rabbit, and we'll say, okay, we're gonna dispatch it if you want to watch that or not. Pause, skip to the next one, whatever, and then the next card section will be hanging the rabbit and starting the harvesting. And then maybe another part will be once the rabbit's already skinned and a lot of that is already gone, just so you can see the different organs inside the rabbit. Is fascinating. And some people don't want to see it actually dispatched. That's understandable. Some people won't want to see the head removed, just little details, but might be curious to see what the pancreas looks like and what the stomach looks like, and intestines and kidneys, livers. And yeah. So what the gallbladder is. It's pretty fascinating, actually. And so we'll go through it step by step, so you can watch what you want and you don't have to watch what you don't want to watch. And then there is a restaurant in downtown Santa Cruz that we have a friend that is supplying rabbits, farm-raised rabbits to them. So we have the opportunity to do that, or you can take yours home if you want to try it too after they're processed. That's not a problem. Or if you want to sell it to a friend or family member, that's always a possibility too. Or again, if you decide to keep them and start doing meat pens, great. If you never know. You never know. We have had, Haley's had a couple friends that didn't want to do meat pens necessarily and then fell in love with a rabbit and got heavily into them. So also
you don't have to do meat pens. If you wanted to show Californians, you could show Californians.
Yeah.
You don't have to breed them for meat. You can breed them to show them or breed them as pets. They're gentle giants, I swear.
Yeah, they are one of the sweetest rabbits. They really are. I wouldn't say that about the New Zealands necessarily. No. We have had some sweet New Zealands, but generally they're not the sweetest rabbit. Californians usually are. One other thing maybe to talk to you guys about is in doing this whole project and all of this is that I lost my train of thought. Never mind. I'll think of it again in a minute.
So for this, we will have continuous meetings, hopefully monthly, if not more, or whatever.
Well, it's only 1 month, so hopefully weekly.
Yeah, weekly. That's what I meant.
At least every 2 weeks, but maybe weekly. Yeah. We'll try.
And I do want to go over the whole entire process with you, step by step, whoever wants to do it. And if you just want to be here to learn and not do a meat pen, that's perfectly fine too. But I do want to go over tattooing and everything like that.
We'll just pretend like we're really going to the fair.
Exactly.
It's a good learning process. And I would like to, as we do these, just to make sure, not that I don't trust you, but just, for the record books, to make sure that you actually watched the whole video and attended the meeting so that we can count it as a meeting for you. I will track the dates for everybody of when the meetings are, and you can do that too. Write it down on your calendar so you know you attended a meeting. When I send out the email, you can watch it anytime. Watch the video, put that down as you attended a meeting, and then I think I will send out a monkey survey monkey, with a couple of questions. We'll come up with just a couple questions, and they could be rabbit related, they could be not, like what color was Haley's sweatshirt or something like that. And that way you answer the survey monkey, then we'll know that you were there, you watched the video, you attended the meeting, and we'll check that off for you. So even if you don't do a meat pen, this is Rabbit Project for now. So enjoy that, and everybody can take something away from this no matter what. Tattooing will be good. That'll be a fun one to watch too. And you can totally learn. And then we have tattoo kits that belong to the club. The ones Haley will use for tattooing are Haley's. And a couple other people in the club have them too. But we do have a couple that belong to the club. One is a clamp, and one is the writing tattoo gun, similar to Haley's, but not quite the same one. And if you want to try out tattooing, I think she's going to get them out. If you want to try out tattooing, we're more than happy to drop those at your doorstep. This might be a great opportunity for some kids to try out tattooing, because these aren't your rabbits that you're going to be showing somewhere that you have to worry necessarily that you have to worry about, how messy does a tattoo look? My 10-year-old did it, or whatever. You can go through and tattoo a left or a right ear. Now, if you were showing, I know we all know it would be the left ear, but if you're learning, and if this is a rabbit that you're sure you're not going to keep, not going to show, we're going to process this rabbit, you could try doing a tattoo in both ears so that you can get the experience of getting to tattoo the rabbit. You can also try on a banana, I have heard, or an orange. I don't think it feels anything like tattooing a rabbit, but people say that it's similar.
What they told us to do for shots,
that's what they said. So, okay, feel free to try it. But this is the tattoo gun that Haley likes.
It's literally an electric toothbrush with
a needle at the end.
Yeah.
I'll break it.
I know.
And we do have, they have lidocaine spray that you can get at CVS. So if you're worried about, hurting the rabbit, having pain in their ear, it's just like getting your ears pierced, like, anything like that. It's not bad, but it is, obviously their ears are a little bit sensitive. So you can spray lidocaine spray in there, wait 10 or 15 minutes, and then tattoo the rabbit. So this would be a good opportunity for everybody to learn that also. And then processing, raising a rabbit, feeding, the whole 9 yards.
So yeah, I encourage this highly. It's going to be a great learning experience, and we're here for you the whole process.
And an inexpensive learning experience, really, as things go, like $75 for a pen of 3 and $15 for a bag of feed. 16 for a bag of feed. They just recently changed their price. It's not a bad investment, and then if you process the rabbits and sell them after, it's $10 a pound. So not live weight, that's weight on the hook basically, but it'll be pretty similar to live weight. There's not that much in the head and the skin that comes off. And intestines, most of what the rabbit is weighing is what you're going to get. So if you have a 5.5 pound rabbit, it's probably 4.5 to 5 pounds. So you're,
$40.
yeah, $40 isn't a bad
Per rabbit.
Yeah.
That's more than
you should get
spent
your
on
money
them.
back on this project. You shouldn't have to spend too much, and it's a huge learning experience. And I know, some people aren't going to want to process a rabbit, and that's okay. That's okay. But it's a good opportunity to learn some more new skills. I know what I was going to say earlier. Maybe Haley can tell everybody some of the perks that she's found from doing meat pens, because when Haley first was asked about doing a meat pen, she didn't want to do it. She wanted cute little floppy rabbits or little rabbits with soft fur. Californians weren't cute. They had ugly red eyes. And her mother, who did meat pens in 4-H, talked her into doing meat pens. And so Haley, that's not a meat pen rabbit. That's a soft, fuzzy rabbit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
Haley did her first meat pen and had a great experience doing it and didn't win, but did really good. And then her second meat pen, first one was Monterey Fair, second one was Santa Cruz Fair. And her second one, she won and got to auction her meat pen. And then went on the next year to do one at King City Fair and won and got to auction the meat pen. And I think she's probably auctioned 6 or 7 times now, maybe, between Santa Cruz and King City. Never Monterey. Never won Monterey yet. That's the elusive Monterey show.
Twice as San Benito?
Yes. San Benito, King City, 3 times, I think. 3 or 4 times. 4. And then Santa Cruz 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Anyways, it kind of pulls you in after you get the hang of it. It's pretty fun to do, and depending on how the day rolls, you can make anywhere from $150, worst case scenario, to $2,000 on a meat pen. So it's not a bad experience by any means, and depending on the fair, majority of the time you're going to get the rabbits back. Most people don't want to process and eat a rabbit. San Benito is terminal.
King City just went to terminal too.
King City is now terminal. So those rabbits are going to be processed and you will lose them. So you just have to go into that knowing that, and if you're okay with that, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like any other market animal that you do, but it's a smaller time commitment and a much smaller cost commitment. It is a great way for kids to get started. If you have kids in 4-H, and especially in the Rabbit Project, but even if you're not in the Rabbit Project yet, if you have kids in 4-H and you are going to want to do livestock down the road, this is a great entry-level livestock project for sure. You can also do chickens, but I would recommend rabbits over meat chickens.
Yeah.
Meat chickens are kind of gross. So, not chickens in general. I love my chickens, but meat chickens are gross.
Yeah. My first meat pen, my mom said I didn't win, but I got third. I got my first meat pens from Katie, the lady that we are going to be getting ours from. Obviously, I wanted to start with something cute and small like a mini Rex and soft. And I actually got pulled in to rabbits by winning a raffle Himalayan, which is basically a small Californian. And then I had a family member with French lops, and so I got some French lops and got started in that. And I fell in love with these big floppy things and decided that it was time to go smaller, and so I got mini Rex and Holland lops. Got rid of the Himalayans, got rid of the French lops, and then my mom started talking about her 4-H years and how much fun she had, and she pulled out this trophy from our garage, a box in our garage, and it was a really pretty trophy, a little bit older, but it was pretty nice, and I think it was for Champion Meat Pen at Santa Cruz.
1988?
Yeah. 89.
89?
Yeah. But, and she'd asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said no, because I wasn't really sure about the whole livestock thing. I knew I wanted to be in 4-H, I knew I wanted animals, but I didn't know how I felt about the whole, in the end, part. So finally she got me to do a lamb, and I did my first lamb, and I fell in love with the project. And I fell in love with 4-H, and I decided, okay, maybe we can do a meat pen. So we went down and we bought one for Monterey, and I got third place, or we bought the doe and raised the kits for Monterey. And I fell in love with the rabbits. We raised them and everything, and they got third, and so obviously at that point I didn't get to auction, but I got to keep the rabbits. Fell in love with, I think that was Cotton and Snow, right? And I kept...
And Blueberry?
No,
it was from a different
Blueberry was from the next one. But I kept 2 does out of that, and then I kept a buck out of the next litter. And that was my first breeding pair, or breeding trio. And the next pen was at Santa Cruz, and I got to reserve Champion. And I got to auction off, and I was a little bit sad. I didn't want to do it. I think at one point I told my mom, I don't want to auction. I don't want the money. I want the rabbits. And so that was my first time auctioning off rabbits. I had auctioned off my lamb. And I went and talked to my buyer and asked her what she wanted to do with the rabbits, and she told me that she wanted me to have them back. So she was giving them back to me. And so I kept 1 buck out of that, and we sold the other 2. I think we ended up selling 3 to get processed. But so after that I fell in love with Californians and kind of started really enjoying being able to raise the meat pens, and yeah. And auction and awards is nice too, but it's definitely a learning experience.
And with any rabbits that you do, Haley's a member of the Californian Club and the New Zealand Club and the Mini Rex Club, and as you get a little bit up there and older, they all do scholarships too. So it's another reason to kind of venture into other breeds and become members of different clubs so that you can get some college scholarship money in there. And you can go to dinners and banquets at the Nationals and ARBA convention and get awards and plaques and things like that.
Yep.
Have points. They have points. So if you show a breed, usually they'll send out a magazine catalog, usually quarterly. Some are more, some are less. And there's a point system for each breed. So at the beginning, it begins with just wanting to get a first or a second or a third at a show, and then you want best of show, and then you morph into looking at that catalog every time it comes and wanting to see where you are in the points and where other kids that you know that you show against are, and trying to get up there in the points so that you can have those bragging rights. So just more fun with showing. Lots of reasons to show. Is that it?
Okay.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
We're going up Thursday, Friday, or Saturday probably. So this is it. Crunch time. Email us or text us and let us know. You guys should all have my contact info. You can email to the club or to my personal email or Haley's email, or text me. Let us know if you want to do it and how many pens you want. And if you want to just take this on and do a pen and then just hand it back to us and not know what happens to the rabbits, that's okay too. And we'll try to get you your money back for them one way or another. So just the experience of doing this is huge, and this opportunity probably won't come along again unless we have another something like COVID, and I doubt it. I hopefully doubt it. So once in a lifetime chance.
I highly encourage this. I really do. So
It's gonna be fun.
yeah, I hope a lot of you do it, and I'm excited to see how this works. So
All right.
okay. Bye, guys.